Reno Tirakatne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to take a call on this committee stage. And sir, I want to acknowledge the Minister who, while on her feet before, she mentioned that this bill is entirely compliant with our UN international conventions and treaties from which this legislation is based. Because, sir, we know that of all of the suite of amendments that are enacted under this bill, it all stems from a report from 2001, which was Strengthening New Zealand's Resistance to Organised Crime. And that report, sir, involved 18 government departments, and the proposals that were in this report were incorporated into this bill. And but I'm curious to know whether how cast iron the Minister is in her assurance about compliance with the international convention, sir, because the report, which was written by the Ministry of Justice, which is the foundation for this bill, had the biggest legal disclaimer that I have ever seen and I've ever read, and basically it was a cast iron disclaimer that everything that was in the report, the Ministry accepted no responsibility for its accuracy or any legal action that might eventuate on the basis of this report. So I am somewhat pleased, but I would like the Minister to elaborate a bit further that the assurance that this bill is compliant with all of the international conventions, fully compliant with all the treaties and other protocols which are included in this legislation, that is cast iron, and that she is not hiding behind any legal disclaimers which have been put to her from her officials. And I think it's important that the people of New Zealand know that this bill we aren't hiding behind legal speak, we aren't hiding behind disclaimers. If it says that we are fully compliant with UN conventions and the like, then that needs to be the case. Otherwise, we are actually fooling the public. So there are more than just the UN Convention against corruption at stake, included in this bill, sir. There are a host of others, and I would like the Minister to give that assurance that we are indeed fully compliant with all of those conventions as a result of this legislation. And just a quick word, sir, now on the issue of facilitation payments. And I understand that it is a very difficult issue. And just to give an example, sir, prior to the enactment of the China FTA, which was championed by the Honourable Phil Goff, sir, our entire lobster industry in New Zealand, live lobster industry, went through what was called grey channels through Hong Kong and into mainland China. Now, obviously, the customers were in mainland China. The financial transactions took place via Hong Kong through its banking system. However, the passage of all of the lobster that came out of New Zealand went through grey channels, which was basically a word for bribery or greasing the wheels, greasing the access of those lobsters through to the importer. And everyone in the New Zealand industry knew about that. It was common knowledge. That's why hundreds of tonnes of product goes that way. And the reason that New Zealand companies exported that, because that was the mode of business. And sure, there were official tariffs that were in place in China, but everyone knew that the hub and the way that the importers circumvented that was through these grey channels under the dead of night and darkness from Hong Kong into southern China. Now, fortunately, the business has changed and it's become much more open and transparent. But while in southern China at that time, sir, there were massive billboards in China basically saying that the success of this region is based on cooperation between the border officials, the importers and the police. It was blatantly obvious that it was all about some form of bribery to be able to transact that whole business, that whole industry. And so, sir, the New Zealand industry doesn't operate in a vacuum, and so I was just wanted to highlight that point, sir, that it is, I guess it was based on who had knowledge, and the actual knowledge and the actual grey channels were enacted and affected through the importers and not New Zealand companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to take a call, and whilst I absolutely agree with what my